here, and this is where we'll end because I'm really just trying to illustrate this and you don't have to learn these off by heart now. But I've got 3 different compounds of sulfur with sodium, or sodium with sulfur. This one, Na2S, has just a sulfur on its own. That is called sodium sulfide. And I want you to notice the suffix at the end of sulfur. This one is sodium sulfite. Notice this one, and you probably get this one because we've used the word already, sulf, right? What was that? Sulfate, SO4, SO4 again. This is a sulfate. Now, why these different things? Well, what is the difference between sodium sulfide and sodium sulfite? Well, you might say the difference is 1 letter. That's a D and that's a T. Yes, but that's a trivial difference. What does it represent? You see, when we've got T, and we've got a T here again, what have we got in the compound that this one doesn't have when it's sulfide? Well, what it seems to me the difference is that these have got oxygen. So when we've got oxygen, you've got a T in it. It's a sulfite and a sulfate, whereas that's a sulfide, there's no oxygen. I'm going to give you one funny little example that contradicts what I'm saying, but this is a reasonably good rule for the moment. So we've got sodium sulfide, no oxygen. You've got sulfite, 3 oxygens. You've got sulfate, 4 oxygens. All right, they've both got oxygen. This one has got more, it's 8. This one's got less, it's 8. So if you've got sodium sulfite, you can tell that it's the fewer number of oxygens in this thing made up by sulfur and oxygen. When it's sulfate, it's got more oxygens in the thing that connects the sulfurs and the oxygens. So there we have a nitrate. Is there a nitrite? Yes. CaNO2 would be a nitrite. Don't worry if you don't get those quite correct in your minds now, because we'll go back to them. Here is a sulfide, sodium sulfide, and that tells us there's no oxygen. Now, I'm going to end with this example, Na2CO. What is that called? That is called sodium oxide. Chemistry, like the English language, is full of exceptions, and there an oxide will be something with only 1 oxygen. If you had something, and it doesn't really happen, with many more oxygens, you might call it oxides and oxates, but we don't have those. So that's an exception, but the rule generally follows. So if you've got a nitride, it'll have just nitrogen. If you've got a nitrite, it'll have NO2. If you've got a nitrate, it'll have an NO3, and so on. And that is a pretty general rule. Now, that, as I said at the beginning, I only promised it as a cook's tour. It's very quick. Don't worry if you don't get all the details now, because you can go back to this lesson when you've done a little more chemistry, and you will find all of these pieces fall into place very nicely, because chemistry is a very ordered subject. That's it for today. Peter Glover saying goodbye.
Summary: in this lesson you learned the names and formulae of substances, more about the elements, chemical names and symbols, to understand chemical shorthand, the order of the periodic table.